Yeah, definitely inspired by Bill. We used to surf a lot together. He said he was working at a restaurant. This our practice, and then he just took off. So fun times.
Talking to the electronics.
Okay, you do that?
Yep.
Okay. So, this next speaker is going to knock you alive. Okay? So, I'm excited to have Dr. Landon Eminette here as a speaker for you. He is an absolutely brilliant genius mind in chiropractic, and you're about to hear why. He's also one of the most successful chiropractors on the planet, with 3 high-level, super amazing clinics in San Diego, and all based upon the principle of chiropractic, all cash, all for the right reasons, saving everyone from infants to the elderly. An absolutely inspiration to me, and I love that he's the up and coming generation. When I asked him to speak, I said, Landon, we're it. Like the speakers that are on our program, we're the ones who have to hand the torch off. And I said, I have to hand it off to you. And I'm excited that you're here. Like, I get choked up when I introduce you and the other speakers because I feel so strong and so passionate about your message. I love you, brother.
Love you too. Thanks. Thanks, Dr. Mark. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my honor to be with you today. I'd like to start off telling you a little story. So once upon a time, there was a little boy, and this little boy found himself in a really dark room. And the room was dark in the literal sense, but also that it was required, because that was the only way that he felt that he was out of the pain that he lived in. This little boy came from a broken home. His parents divorced when he was 3 years old. And he found refuge in sports. He played all types of sports, but in particularly, he loved baseball. He loved the smell of a mitt, a freshly oiled mitt, when you would put a ball in it and wrap it up with a rubber band and leave it out all night. He loved just like holding that ball and feeling the stitches in it. 5, 6 years old, he just held the ball all the time. Or the sound when you crack a ball and you know it's going to be a double, a stand-up double. You don't even have to slide into second base. And so that little boy was playing with his friends, as he often would, at a baseball diamond. And one of his best friends was at the pitcher's mound, and his other friend was in the batter's box. And they said, "Hey, why don't you go catch? You be the catcher." So he got behind home plate. And he got behind home plate, and his friend threw a fastball, and his other friend swung for the fence, and a foul tip came straight back. And he had only time just to turn his head just a little bit, and he caught the ball right in the side of the face. And he was a tough kid, so he shook it off. And more important, he didn't want to get in trouble for doing something so foolish, because he wasn't wearing any protective gear. And he went home to his mom, and he started to develop headaches. And he went to his mom with a headache, and his mom did what any mom would have done in the 90s, gave him an aspirin. Interesting, we don't give kids aspirin anymore because of Reye syndrome. That's another topic. The headaches kept coming, and the aspirin kept killing the pain. And then his sister came home from college, and she said, "Mom, what's wrong with Landon's lip? Like, he's not smiling all the way." See, it was so subtle when it started. It was just the lower part of my face that wouldn't move. And the headaches became more and more common. And my mom, she grabbed my face and she said, "Smile." And I smiled, and she could notice the difference. And we went straight to the doctor. Went to the doctor's office, and they did what they were supposed to do. They ran all their tests. They ran CT tests and MRIs and nerve tests. And they said, "What you've been diagnosed with is Bell's palsy. You have a paralysis of a facial nerve. And most of those get better on their own. So we'll just wait it out. But here's another drug to take for the headaches." Because at that point, I was having headaches more days in the week than not. And so we went home and we took that medication, and the problem was that particular medication had a chemical reaction in my body, and instead of helping the headaches, I started to have what were called rebound headaches. So I would wake up with a headache that was 10 times worse than the headache that I was suffering from. It got to the point where I didn't need an alarm clock anymore. I would wake up at 7 a.m. screaming. I can still remember my mom's voice as she would run to my room, and I'd say, my head, and she would say, Landon, what's wrong? We'd run back to the doctor. Unfortunately, more tests, less hope, more medications. I was taken out of school and homeschooled because I couldn't function until about 10 in the morning, and I was taking several different prescription drugs. What was even worse than the physical pain really was the emotional pain, because I looked different and I smiled different. I don't know if you've ever met 10-year-old boys, but they can be a little rough. And what I learned was that if someone started making fun of me because of how I looked or how I smiled, that the best thing to do was to just pick the biggest one in the group and knock them out. And it worked, right? But it didn't work at all, because I started to resist love because I was so vulnerable. I started to push my loved ones away. My brothers and sisters walked on eggshells around me because I was so angry because of what had happened to me, and that there was no solution. We would go to doctor after doctor, every specialist you can think of, and they would all kind of say the same thing. Most of these paralysis get better. We don't know why yours isn't. Here's another drug to try. And they didn't know what to do. And as a 13-year-old boy, how could I know what to do? They're the doctor. So I lived in this state. That was my life. And I got to the point where I was only having, 1 or 2 migraines a week, which I can only describe as a 10 out of 10 pain, where I would want to throw up. But the best I could do is to find that dark room. And that room just kept getting darker and darker. And it was almost completely devoid of light. There was maybe like a pinhole of hope. And at one point I did consider taking God's greatest gift, my own life. And then I got an angel sent to me as my baby sister. She walked in the room and she just said, Landon, no. And we found chemicals to, kill the symptoms. And meanwhile, all the emotional stress was still just it was like a snowball inside of me. And then one day a friend of mine said, you ought to go see my doctor. He's different. I think he can help you. And I said, no, I don't want to go to any more doctors. I have a condition called docitis. It's an inflammation of doctors' offices. And you can laugh at my jokes. They're very funny. And I didn't want to see any doctors because it was that same story. And I just leave feeling more deflated and helpless than I went in. And he said, no, really, I think you should see my doctor. He's different. And I think he was giving away a free chicken dinner, right? And you go listen to him talk. Some people in the audience are smiling. They understand that paradigm of chiropractic. They used to give, free chicken dinners to patients, and they would come listen to him talk, and that's how you'd, be able to tell the story, right? Now we have Instagram and Facebook and X, and we could broadcast the story as loud and proud as we have the courage to do so, like Billy said. So I went to that doctor, and the healing started when I walked in the room. I'd never been to a doctor's office like that. The CA walked around outside of the desk and said, hi, you must be Landon. We've been expecting you. I really can't wait for you to meet my doctor. I think he can help you. I'd never been greeted like that before. What I was used to was this thing that comes with the Doc in the Box kit. It's called the Go to Hell window. You guys ever had a Go to Hell window? It's this window where they come over and they say, can I get your ID and your insurance, please? And you hand it over and they say, go to hell. They close it on you. So I had been used to that. And so what happened was I then went and I met with the doctor, and he listened to my story. He listened to what had happened to me. He wasn't engrossed in a clipboard. We sat knee to knee, and we connected. And it felt for the first time I had a doctor really listen to what had happened to me. And he said, well, I don't think you have a disease. I think you have dis-ease. Your body is in a state of complete dis-ease, and he hyphenated the word. He said, you see, Landon, your body is the most amazing thing ever created. 2 cells came together, and then 9 months life formed. He said, healing really comes from above down and inside out. And all we have to do is remove the interference that's happened because of your injury, and life and health will express itself. He said, imagine if you cut yourself on accident, right? And then did you tell yourself to heal, or did it just start doing it on its own? He said, well, what if you just kept interfering with the process and you structurally traumatized that area over and over again, or you poured bad chemicals in it? Or what if you even thought negatively about it? We know that in science, if we have a plant and we tell it really good things, it grows really big. And if you tell it that you don't like it, or just write the word hate next to it, then it dies faster. He's like, this is the expression of health is from inside you, and your central nervous system controls and coordinates all function in your body. So what if we just remove the interference from your brain to your body by adjusting these things called subluxations, which really means like you have a dimmer switch and the light's not turned on all the way, and we're going to turn the power on from your brain to the body and just see what happens. And then he said the most important thing he ever said to me. He said, Landon, I don't know if I can fix your Bell's palsy or even your headaches, but I do know that your life will be better as a patient in my office. And it didn't cost $1 million, and it was non-invasive. And so I said, let's do it. I signed up. And he gave me real hope. The first miracle that happened to me in a chiropractic office happened before I even got a chiropractic adjustment. I walked out of a doctor's office for the first time since that injury happened with real hope. Not false hope, selling a dream, trying to sell a package, real hope. And so I paid for one visit, and then my grandma paid for the next visit. And then the second miracle happened. 4 weeks into care, the next month I didn't have a single headache. I was still having a migraine a week on drugs. And then 1 month turned into 2, and then I knew I was going to be a doctor of chiropractic. That chiropractor and chiropractic saved my life. And I would not be here today if it wasn't for chiropractic and that chiropractor. And that is why we're all here. So thanks for listening to my story. I have 2 main objectives today. The first objective is I want to leave you with something that you can take to your office whenever you practice again, whether that's tomorrow or Monday or Saturday or Sunday. As Dr. Mark was saying, let's be open all the time. I love it. What else are we going to do? Save lives. That's what we're going to do. So I want you to take one thing to your practice that you can help more people. And then I'd love to learn something from someone in the audience. Maybe you have a move, an adjustment that it's your go-to and you just love it. You love it as much as, a good book and a warm blanket on a rainy day. And you do it on this patient all the time, and it just always works for you. I'd love to learn that tool, because chiropractic is a participation profession, right? We get better based off of the chiropractors that were around and the books we read. Billy told me today, which is fantastic, right? But we're not going to get better on a chiropractic island somewhere isolated, right? I'm the better chiropractor today than I was 10 years ago, but it's because I've met incredible doctors, right, that have helped me hone my skills and my adjusting ability. And I'm never going to be done. I'm never going to be done learning. I think that chiropractic is a life improvement program disguised as a profession, right? And it's my conviction that chiropractors are some of the best people on the planet. And I want all of them to be as successfully as they can possibly be, because if more chiropractors were more successful, then the world would be a better place. Would you agree? Yeah. So now that we've said our reason for being here and our our goals for the day. I'm going to go into a couple of these slides. So this is me. Let's see. Oh, let me go back. This is me here. Some things never change. I still have incredible hair. That's me right after the accident. You can see that just that lower part of my lip, wasn't quite expressing itself fully. Convinced that completely subluxated. And my buddy Tim, not as good hair, right? No, sorry, Tim. This is me. This is about a year and a half after the injury. I stopped smiling for pictures.
So how long from the baseball that subluxated you until you had your first adjustment? What was that length of time?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'm glad you asked, because my uncle was a chiropractor, but he moved away probably about 3 years before my injury. And so we always went to the chiropractor kind of for pain, or my mom would call them attitude adjustments, and wonder why I had a bad attitude. There's a lot of external stressors in life, right? So from the injury until the time I got adjusted for the first time, easily 4.5 years. Yeah.
And see, so it's interesting. Like, I think of, what if you got adjusted that day? Yeah. The next day, a week later. It's like delayed chiropractic care is a horrible thing, right? But what the great thing is you got it. Changed your life.
Yes.
And here you are.
Right.
It's your purpose in life. So thank you. I never, I never knew that part. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I wasn't going to tell this story, but you prompted it, so I'm gonna flow with it. Before we had children, I often worried how my children's friends would perceive me, and if they would make fun of our children because of my looks. And we have 4 children, and my oldest, she's 13 now. And about 2 years ago, we were talking about needing a procedure for my eye because it doesn't close all the way. And my at the time, my 9-year-old little girl looked at me and said, "Daddy, you're gonna do surgery on your eye?" And I said, "Maybe, And she's like, "Okay, but just don't change your smile."
Oh, that's so sweet.
So she's like, "I love your smile," right? So yeah, that's that. You guys get me all emotional and uncomfortable up here. So I stopped smiling for pictures, and I really was. I was in such a vulnerable state that I withdrew, and I pushed love away. And with all the things that patients come in with, they come in with this symptom package, but that's the things they're telling you, right? What's even greater is like that beautiful representation of the iceberg that are in so many chiropractors' offices. It's like that's the tip of the iceberg. Underneath it, there was so much more, for me. So words have power based on who speaks them, and first and foremost, I'm a hope dealer, right? Real hope, not a dope dealer, and I hope that every day in my office I inspire people based off of how I live and live out the sermon, like these chiropractic principles, that they too can have a transition in their paradigm. Because what happened to me was there's nothing I can do. There's nothing the doctors even know what to do, and they are so well educated, right? What can I do? And this shift happened inside of me as a chiropractic patient to my body is actually going to do the healing. What else can I do? So, Dr. Barker, may his soul rest in heaven, he adjusted my spine and he removed interference in my central nervous system from my brain to my body. But he also told me how to eat better and gave me vitamins and minerals to feed the nerves and to feed my body. And then he did this technique called the neuro-emotional technique. Anybody ever heard of that technique, the neuro-emotional technique? Incredible technique. He took me in front of a mirror and he said, smile. And I smiled at myself, and every muscle in my body would weaken every time. I couldn't smile at myself. I couldn't smile for pictures. And then he did what I thought was kind of a bunch of like voodoo magic and said a bunch of things, and my arm weakened at one emotion that he stated. And then instantly I started to cry. And I cried in a way that I don't think I had cried since the accident. And I had a healing moment from that neuro-emotional technique. As I was crying, he was adjusting my spine by tapping on my back. And the neuro-emotional technique is a phenomenal technique, developed and created by Dr. Scott Walker out of Encinitas. And it's one of the few occasions where I've seen chiropractors, medical doctors, psychiatrists, social workers, acupuncturists, naturopaths, all in the same room, learning some healing stress reduction technique, and all really respecting each other and where they're coming from in that space. So even if it's just for yourself, he basically has you think about things and sees how it affects you, and then has really interesting research on how that actually affects postural distortion and creates a psychosomatic subluxation in the body that then we as chiropractors can release with an adjustment to the spine while they hold that negative trauma. It's fascinating stuff. So I try and instill hope that they can get well in my office. You know, we always under promise and over deliver. You know, that's what we should do. And so here's kind of my top 10 of me, and I'm going to say I a bunch, but it's of the utmost importance to me that you understand that when I say I, it's not that I did anything good. The only good comes through me is God who flows through me, and it's by the grace of God that I'm even here today. The grace of God at a chiropractic in the chiropractor's hands. Amen. Yeah. So I was an associate for 3 years, and I acquired my first practice in 2012. And then Dr. Awesome was born. So I never wanted to be Dr. Awesome. I already have an ego problem. I don't need any help. But I had a patient who had terrible headaches, and I was able to adjust her, and she got well. She said, I have to admit, I haven't called you by your last name. I keep calling you Dr. Landon because my last name is Aminette, and it's French. And she said, I'm just going to call you Dr. Awesome. And I said, oh, please don't do that. You know, but she was relentless. And pretty soon she had everybody else calling me Dr. Awesome. So as a gag, we put out cards that said Dr. Awesome on them, and they were gone in like 2 days, 500 cards, boom. So we trademarked it. What was interesting is when I started getting well as a teenager, people started asking me how I was doing, and I started to say I was awesome. And it was both like an affirmation, and it became the truth, right? And so that came full circle in practice. So in 10 years in practice, I have acquired 14 practices, mostly from chiropractors who wanted their patients to be taken care of by us. So we brought them into my existing brick and mortar practice in La Mesa. Anybody from San Diego? Awesome. Where are you at?
Mission Valley.
Wonderful.
I'm practicing in Orange County. I was just from.
Oh, right on. Excellent. I love San Diego. It's my hometown. I grew up in Fletcher Hills area, La Mesa. And so it made sense to go back there and start my practice. And so we brought these practices of doctors who were retiring. I would just meet with them and say, hey, like, I'm a chiropractor, and this is my story. And they would say, I want you to carry on my legacy of chiropractic care. And so then we would help more people, and then we'd be more successful, and then more people would come and we'd be more successful. I always wanted to practice in Alpine, California, which is about 10 minutes to the mountains. It's a cute little mountain town. We lived right in between there. A doctor was practicing for 40 years there, and he wanted to retire. And he's like, I want you to do it. I'm like, I have a practice. I cannot be in 2 places at once. But I had an associate doctor come on, and the timing just worked out perfectly. So we opened up a second office in Alpine, and then we grew and we helped more people, and we became more successful. And I always felt that if I just helped enough people, everything would take care of itself. And as we kept helping more people, people were saying, we're over here in Santee, which is 10 minutes the other direction from one of our offices. And I'm like, it's only 10 minutes. And they're like, no, you should be in Santee. So we opened up another practice in Santee and have an associate doctor there. And so now I call it the Triangle of Awesome. You know, it's like three areas in San Diego, and it's a beautiful thing because we're able to help more people and create a healthy community. And that's really what it's all about. We've never taken insurance at all. It's 100% membership practice, but we still are able to, you know, find a value exchange that works for both the doctor and the patient. And I've never looked at chiropractors as my competition as a chiropractor. You know why? Because everybody needs to get adjusted, and there's so many people on the planet. You know, the people who I think is our competition is this insurance intermediary over here who will not be named, but you all know who I'm talking about. And that insurance intermediary gets paid by denying claims for chiropractic care to doctors who deserve to get paid. And that insurance intermediary last year made $728 million. $728 million denying claims that should have been paid for chiropractic care, and basically helping people get sick and have chronic illness and disease. So that's our competition. And as a result of thinking that way and having this abundance mentality, and every time a new chiropractor comes in town, I go introduce myself and say, you're going to do great here. There's plenty of people. Because if you get in a room with 100 families, right, and you say, how many of you take your whole family to the chiropractor on a regular basis, at least monthly, and have everybody raise their hands? Out of 100, it's maybe like 2, 3 people. It's not good enough, which means we have to step up, because we have to continue to tell the message, tell the story that from above down, inside out, we remove subluxations and health expresses itself. And you'll be healthier as a result of being in this office than not, right? Worse, shorter life, not getting adjusted than getting adjusted. It's not hard. It's really simple, right? It's a low bar. Like, even if I just talked to you and hugged you and like said, have a nice day, once a week, you would have a better life. But now I can lay you on a table and I can find where your pain is without you telling me. And I have this skill where I can remove the subluxation and get the body and the brain to connect on a way that nothing else can. Is your life going to be better with it than without it? Exponentially, right? So we're top 1% of chiropractic clinics, and then because we bought that practice in Alpine, this is what happens. In my last year of chiropractic college, all of the company wellness was coming online. I was in the Silicon Valley at Palmer West, and my clinician left to the college to go work for Cisco Systems and their 20,000 employees or whatever they had, right? And he created a chiropractic wellness clinic at Cisco Systems. And so I had to write, we all had to each write a paper about an industry that could use chiropractic and how that industry would improve as a result of getting regular chiropractic care. Being from San Diego, I choose the Indian gaming industry, and I wrote a paper about how we can apply chiropractic principles for wellness for the casino industry. And then here I was, took about 9 years later, unbeknownst to me, I started to adjust the majority of the tribal council for Viejas. And when I had a conversation after an adjustment with the CFO, and I said, hey, what if Awesome Family Chiropractic could be the provider for Viejas? And he said, I love it. I'm writing up the benefits package right now. What do you want it to look like? And I said, I want it to be so that they can get adjusted whenever they want without any symptoms, as often as they want. And you tell me what's affordable to them, and then how can we make the deal a win-win? And so we wrote into the contract explicitly. And guess what I did to that denying claims insurance subsidiary? Boom, I kicked the middleman right out. We have a win-win agreement, 4 years running. We've signed up 3 other companies, and my goal this year is to sign up 40. Because they can come in as often as they want, and they love the care, and they get to do it in a loving environment that doesn't have this fight in the back room over claims and insurance being paid and the like. Lastly, I wrote a book. The book was really about losing my father when I was 19. It's called The Awesome Diet Book. My genetics, I know it doesn't look like it because I'm so buff and like ripped up here. So I hang out with Mark though, because I don't want to do the lift up your shirt test with my buddy Mark. My father passed away tragically when I was 19. He weighed 364 pounds. That's my genetics. If I eat the standard American diet of 3 square meals of crap, I would be at least 120 pounds overweight. And I had this story in my head of how to help people not fall into the trap of inflammatory diets. And I wrote it up. It took me 7 years to do it. And I had a publisher and they messed it all up and I had to redo it again. I should stop blaming them, but I'm going to blame them today. But next talk, I'll stop blaming them. So I ended up getting a PhD in self-publishing. And then I started writing these little children's books. So in the meantime, we actually bought Chirocom. Anybody at Chirocom? The magazine? Raise your hand. Who likes Chirocom? Oh, I'm not giving you a book. He did the so-so. This guy liked it there. She liked it back there. There you go. So, what's that?
I like the Palmer quotes.
I'm teasing you. There you go. You get that one. So those are yours. You can take them home, read them to your grandkids or your patients. My cousin, she reads that book to her 3-year-old every night. It's fantastic. So these are little books. They're the chiropractic message in a story. And then on the back, I interweave our practice name and me into the story and make the parent actually the hero because they are the hero. You know, they heard chiropractic could help their child and they bring their child to the chiropractor and the chiropractor gets to show them the way. And then in that process, the baby heals, right? From above down, inside out. And that's what I want my legacy to be, is right here. Chirocom, it has been running for over 35 years. And it's where I bought my first practice, my first table. When I saw it was available for acquisition, it made perfect sense to me because I knew I could make it bigger, better, and bolder. And what I envisioned for it is a way to connect the entire chiropractic profession and to help keep it pure and into chiropractic. And so that's what we're going to do with it. And we're taking it and we're going to take it nationally. And therefore, you never have to be like isolated on a chiropractic island anymore. Even if you practice solo, you can have connections with other chiropractors and you can get philosophy and read it. I can't tell you how much I got out of listening to Billy. I walked in, Billy completely changed my life with CalJam. He talks about DE and how that changed his life. That was CalJam for me. And it completely revolutionized my practice and it helped me help more people and have more purpose in my life. And I wasn't expecting to see him back in the back of the room. When I walked in, I was expecting to be on stage. I walked in, he came to give me a big hug. I started crying. That's what chiropractors can be to each other, right? I imagine most of you have someone like that in your life, and it's a beautiful thing. So my legacy, as Gonstead is famous for all the people that he helped and having to build an airport at his office because so many people wanted to come get adjusted by Dr. Gonstead, right? As Leo Spears is famous for buying and creating a hospital in Colorado to take care of people who were condemned to insane asylums and adjusting them and getting them well and turning them back into productive members of society. What I want to be remembered for when it comes to chiropractic is telling the story in this way with ChiroTales. Every one of you have a story about a patient, and you probably told it, way too many times to your spouse or your kids or somebody that they're like, whenever my dad tells me a story more than once, he's told me to like do this to him. Like this is how many times he's told me this story. So then sometimes I go like this, Dad, like this, So you all have a story of a patient who had remarkable transformation in your practice. What if we could take that story and bring it down to a book like this, that's just a picture book that we could start telling to kids when they're 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, right? Wouldn't that be incredible? And then these kids grow up with this story that their health, the best doctor is the doctor inside of them And the second best doctor is the doctor that respects that doctor and then helps remove the interference so health can be expressed, right? Okay, enough about me. More about me. Here's ChiroCom. So we turned it into an app, and the app is incredible. Does everything that the magazine does. Every month we give away free CEs, 24 hours of free CEs to someone who's an app subscriber. So if you haven't downloaded the ChiroCom app, you can get free CEs by doing that. And then all kinds of other things that we're adding onto it. It's evolving every month. The app's getting better every month. And it really is to help you become a better doctor. You find,
Well, I was just thinking that, so many of you have what's called an informed consent in your clinic. How many of you use informed consent? Okay. If you don't use informed consent, it's a requirement of the law. How many of you know that you're required to verbally go over that informed consent and the language has to be a certain way? So a lot of people don't know that, and that's a violation of board regulations in California. So you have to have them sign it, so you have to read it, sign it, but you as a doctor are verbally required to review that document with them. So what I'd like to do is just say, look at anybody who downloads that, then we'll make sure they get that form that was written by Roger Halpin, the best health law attorney in the country, who wrote it to comply with California law. Because we're all California chiropractors, I just want to give that to you so that you can use it. It's pretty self-explanatory. And then you and I can shoot just a short little video clip to show them how to use it properly and how simple it is to verbally review it.
love it. Yeah, that sounds great.
So this is what, Landon and I had a talk, I don't know what that was, a year ago.
A year ago, yeah.
Yeah, but it's amazing.
Maybe longer.
Yeah, right, probably longer. But we share a vision for creating what we call the chiropractic universe, and making this movement of pure chiropractic principle go worldwide. And it's all about, there is no competition. Because as you said, there's millions of people, millions, billions that are not under chiropractic care. The competition is with ourselves, right?
Yeah, completely.
And that's it. So we have a vision of, let's do this together with our brothers and sisters and completely change the planet. Because as Billy and you and I were talking about, people are getting it now.
Yeah.
People are running to chiropractic, and we're going to make sure that they don't just run, they sprint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So what do? They take a picture of that?
Yeah, you might be able to scan the QR codes. It's too far away. The best thing to do is just search ChiroCom in your app store. If you search that, it's going to pop right up. And then I'll make sure and make those bigger for the next presentation. Thanks for letting me know. And we have to continue to tell the chiropractic story. When I talk to chiropractors, most of them have had an experience with chiropractic that actually had them become a chiropractor in the first place. I think that we're completely unique in that as a profession, that the majority of us, we've had an experience with chiropractic, and that was what was the genesis of us becoming a chiropractor, right? Backtracking just back to competition is like I said before, if you have a company, like when Billy was talking about that company he was speaking at, like I just get goosebumps. If you have a company or a business owner that has a company and you want to become their chiropractor, I will help you. I'll help you for free. I'd love, as many times as I can boot that intermediary out the door, I would love to do that and have all of that revenue go to you. And then you are going to have way better patient outcomes because everybody's going to be happy in that situation. The disconnect comes with the argument between the relationship with the patient and insurance and the doctor and insurance, and the doctor and the patient. There's a triangulation that, I don't have to go into detail with. I think you guys all get it, that happens there, and it's really sad. And I think sometimes it gets in the way of the healing, right? And we want to do everything we can to stop anything from getting in the way of the healing.
So just for a couple minutes, briefly share your membership model with the tribe and the others that you're doing with, kind of how that works.
Mm-hmm.
Like what you set up that structure where they can come in whenever they want.
Yeah, so what we ended up doing is that we have basically a membership program that the employees are enrolled in by the employer, right? So the employer enrolls the team members into a membership program, a wellness program is what it's called. And so that's a monthly stipend that is paid no matter what to our company. So the enterprise, that is the business owner, they pay a monthly stipend to us no matter what. And we cannot tell the enterprise who comes and when. It's a HIPAA violation. So all they're doing is they're enrolling their team members into a wellness program through Awesome Family Chiropractic. And then as a result, like insurance, they cap your visits at 24 visits, right? Well, not in our wellness program. You can come unlimited, as long as we're open, however many days we're open, that's how often you can come get adjusted, right? So they showed me what they were offered, and then I said, well, let's remove the cap. So they can come 3 times a week, 4 times a week. We always give them a recommendation, and they're very happy to go along with the recommendation. But the enterprise pays our company a monthly stipend per employee. They have 1,400 employees, so you can imagine what that looks like. And then instead of the employee paying our normal fee, which is anywhere from $80 to $57, that's our rate scale, 57 to 80 per adjustment. They only pay $15 an adjustment. So now it becomes affordable as if it's insurance, but it's not a copay. It's just their straight adjustment. And then they're enrolled in a membership program by their employer. They're very well taken care of. And the truth is that if you looked up that insurance intermediary and you looked up their reviews on Google, they have 2.2 stars out of 5 stars in Google ratings. And we all know why. And then you read these reviews, and it's not like 2 people gave them a bad review. It's hundreds of people. And so my conversation with employers now, as I've honed this over the last 3 years, if I meet a business owner, I ask them 2 questions. The first question I ask them, do you give wellness chiropractic to your employees? Because the data says that people who get adjusted on a regular basis use less drugs, have less sick days, and less hospitalizations. So if you're not getting them adjusted on a regular basis, you're basically running into these things. Oh, but I didn't even mention work comp claims increase decrease when people get adjusted, and the chiropractor is their first point of entry for anything healthcare related. And then they start thinking, and I go, and if they say, yes, we already have chiropractic coverage, what I tell them is I say, well, would you buy lunch for your team from a restaurant that has 2.2 out of 5 stars on Google? And they start laughing because that's insane. You would never do that. And I said, well, that's what you're doing with your healthcare for chiropractic coverage, because 95% of it is all outsourced through this one company in San Diego. And that company does not have a very good reputation. And if you'd like, I'd like to throw my hat in the ring and see if we can compete with them and take care of your team. I think you're going to have a better experience. And they start going, okay. If they don't have chiropractic care, then I go back to that first principle, which is chiropractic people who get adjusted, they're a healthier population, and then they can come and see us instead of going to the pills and the other things and missing work, et cetera, et cetera. Make sense? Cool. Yeah. Oh, this is just Amazon. This is so patients buy my books now and read them to their kids. And then I drive around in my Cybertruck and give them to patients. I'll show up and the kids go bananas, and then I'm wearing my cape. When they mandated masks for COVID, I mandated capes. So I started wearing that. That patient moved. Well, let me back up. That patient moved to LA, and she said, "You really are Dr. Awesome." And she sent me a cape in the mail. So I started wearing it for Christmas. If you need like motivation, like the back of that, show the back of that. Some cartoonist drew me in a Speedo with a six pack, and I lost like 25 pounds. So that was a good thing. But my patient sent me a cape, and then it wasn't long after that COVID happened, and so I started wearing a cape, and I wear a cape everywhere, and it feels good. It's good for my posture. There's probably like some science behind it somewhere, but people might talk trash about me later, but that's okay, because you know why? Because they're talking about me, so it doesn't really matter. No such thing as bad publicity. This is my wife, Summer. She's beautiful. I put this in here because I like to stare at her right around now in the presentation. She's as gorgeous inside as out, as she is out too, and she's just incredible. She's a wonderful wife and mother, and I'm so grateful that she's in my life. And then this is what it's all about right here. So this is a Disney cruise bucket list that we did. And have you ever been on a Disney cruise? No. They do it right. It's really a fun time when you walk in this giant ship and they want you to introduce yourself. And we walked up, and my little boy said, "We're the Awesomes." And this lady from Australia said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Awesomes are here." And then like it went totally viral on TikTok, but they didn't put my handle in, so it didn't help me at all. But you can see this is Mommy Awesome and Daddy Awesome. This is Tallulah Awesome and Bash Awesome. His name's Sebastian. He goes by Bash for obvious reasons if you met him. Incredible kids. Lazarus Awesome and Sedona Awesome. And Awesome has become ingrained in our family culture, because God made me awesome, and he made you awesome too. And all we have to do is let that light shine, right? So every morning after we pray, we put our hands together and we go, 1, 2, 3, we are an awesome family. Ho, 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 woo! And then we started doing it with our extended family, and we do it at restaurants, and people just want to be a part of our awesome family as a result. And none of that would have been possible if it wasn't for chiropractic and a chiropractor. That man saved my life. And if you look at that guy standing between Mickey and Summer, he's smiling. I cannot stop smiling because of a chiropractor and chiropractic. And I get to do it every single day in my clinic. And I'm doing it with you guys. Yesterday we saw 102. The day before that it was a slow day and we saw like 78. But it's so much fun. And a third of our patients are little kids under the age of 13. And sometimes even still, like I get in a rut and I don't realize the impact that I have until someone tells me, or I hear another story. I was speaking at an event like 6 months ago, and just by happenstance, there was a doctor in the back row, and she had been in practice for 35 years. And there was another doctor in this corner in the back row, and she'd been in practice for about 6 years. And it just so happened that this chiropractor was the person who inspired her to become a chiropractor. And I was up here telling the same story, basically, that I did today. And after I told my story, she said, "Can I share something to the group?" And she stood up and she shared that she had been a victim of terrible abuse, just unspeakable things. And she looked over and she says, "I never told you this." And she looked at her chiropractor in the eyes and she said, "But I always knew that I was going to see you on Wednesdays." That's what we're doing with this profession. That's why we're here. Head, heart, and hands. And that's all you need. All right. So we're gonna do a little. We're gonna do technique. And so I like to survey the room. How many of you guys adjust people? There's a few non-chiropractors here, Mark. We have to boot them out. How many of you adjust people? Good. And then how many of you adjust like full spine, like everything, and extremities? Raise your hands if you adjust extremities. Okay, good. So we got the majority of the room. We're going to work on shoulders in my technique portion of my presentation. If you would please tell me when I have like 15 minutes left. Actually 20. Tell me when I have 20 left. So when we think about any patient, we have to think about it in the terms of our philosophy, right? Because that is why we are even here today. So there is a doctor named Shigetaro. I always pronounce his name wrong. Shigetaro. You guys know Dr. Shigetaro? All right, check this out. Shigetaro Moraubi. I think I botched it. I'm going to text you his name. His name is Shigetaro, though. This doctor heard about the principles of chiropractic in the early 1900s in Japan. He said, I have to know what this is. He comes to the United States to learn with B.J. Palmer. He learned with B.J. Palmer, and he was adjusting people, and he was arrested for practicing medicine without a license in Wisconsin. And as a result, it became a landmark case where he was probably able to be defended that he wasn't doing medicine, he was doing chiropractic by removing interference via adjusting subluxation so that the brain and the body could be free of interference and we were not diagnosing and treating disease. He was brought up on charges because of a claim from a medical doctor saying he was practicing medicine without a license, thrown in jail, was successful to get that landmark case, which basically put us on the map as being separate and distinct. When he got out of jail, he found out who the medical doctor was that got him thrown in jail, and he rented office space right next door to him and continued to adjust people and continued to live the principles of chiropractic and get sick people well. The only reason we are chiropractors is because we are standing on the shoulders of giants. The conviction that is required to be thrown in jail for what you believe in, and then in jail, some of these doctors would continue to adjust the other prisoners and the guards, right? And get out and be thrown in jail again. These are the names that I want to remember. This is one of my things for chiropractic that I'm working on in the next 5 years is I want to be able to rattle off. There's a chiropractor who was thrown in jail more than any other chiropractor. I want to know his name, right? I want to write a children's book about him. What's his name? See? And that's why we have to get connected to each other. And Chirocom is going to play a big role in that. So we...
You guys remember the early ICA conventions in Orange County? You go to those. You probably heard him speak. We had him come speak when he was in his 90s.
Wow.
It floored everybody.
That's so cool. Yeah. So the traumas, toxins, and thoughts, right? So those are the things that cause subluxation. And in Didi's time, he said that the number one cause of subluxation of those three, remember what he said? Autosuggestion, thoughts. He said at that time, people were being programmed at that time to think improperly. Imagine where we're at today. And Dr. D was talking about that earlier today with everything that's happened even before COVID with these kids and adults with mental illness and things like that. I love that post-traumatic stress injury, like it's incredible. So, and now we have what we can think about is like, you can have a somatosomatic subluxation, right? You can have a trauma to your body. Say you fall off a ladder, you're subluxated, right? Someone falls off a ladder, they're subluxated. That's a physical subluxation, right? You can also have a visceral somatic subluxation. The nervous system's response to stress in the human body, we do this, right? When cats get stressed, they get a poofy tail and they arch their back. right? And human beings do this, right? And in SOT, we would call that like dural torque, right? And so people are walking around in this hyper stressed state, this sympathetic dominant state, and then they go and they pick up a pencil and their back goes out, and they think it was the pencil that did it. Like that one move was what actually caused their back to go out, but it's not, right? It's that accumulation of stress until the body says, no more, I need to protect it because you're going to injure it, correct? So you can have something that's coming from the visceral or the chemical toxicity that causes a subluxation too, right? Have you ever had food poisoning? Your nervous system did this, right? Or a hangover, right? Judging by the room, it might be the hangover, right? This. And then if you've ever grieved, like till it hurt, you know, psychosomatic subluxation, right? Like this. So if we look at the person in that context, like they have all of these different things that are causing this subluxation pattern. And then it makes more sense now that we get this pattern that happens. And a lot of people have the same pattern that we need to adjust, right? And so we always want to look at things with that triad of health mentality and the 3 T's when we're working on a patient. And then, Dr. Goodhart, who developed applied kinesiology, he would say, listen to the patient, they'll tell you what's wrong with them, right? And so patients will say, well, I started having this problem, and okay, when did it start? Well, it started 3 years ago. Say, well, what happened 3 years ago? And they'll either tell you, they'll say there was a physical trauma, like a known event, or there was no trauma, right? So you have these two areas that you're going to think about with the patient. And so if they have trauma, which we're going to focus on, physical trauma, there's going to be sprain strains and then compaction injuries. The sprain strain is like a rolled ankle. It's one of the best examples. Or a compaction is like a fall and an outstretched hand. So we can test some muscles, which we're going to do, and we're going to work on shoulders. Who has a shoulder issue, like their shoulder hurts? You're all chiropractors. There's going to be at least a few of you in the room. So you got a shoulder you want to work on? Yeah, come on up. So thanks for coming up. So what I'm going to give you in the next 15 minutes, have a seat right here. I'm Landon. Nice to see you. What I'm going to give you is, in my opinion, one of the best things you can do for a shoulder injury that doesn't get better with your standard awesome chiropractic adjustments, right? Patient comes into me, I find subluxations and I adjust them full spine. And guess what? They've been diagnosed with impingement syndrome or bicipital tendonitis or blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry, but blah, blah, blah. Those are all symptoms. They're not problems. They're not the cause, right? So we start to adjust their subluxations, and then guess what? Shoulder gets better. Everything gets better. There is a percentage for me in my practice of people who their shoulders don't get better with just me adjusting them full spine or their extremities. So I'm going to give you basically a really simple protocol that you can do in like 2 minutes with a patient who has a shoulder problem that does not get better with you just straight adjusting them and adjusting their extremities. Does that sound good? Okay. So you have a shoulder.
It's just weird when I work out. Like
Okay.
I can feel that there's some kind of weak, but almost like just, it feels wonky
On this side?
on the left side.
Okay. So we'll do just general range of motion with your right side first. You're just going to go like this. And that's great. And then do this side for me. Good. And then good shoulder range of motion test is to do this side first. You're going to go like this, and then you go like this. That's really good. And then do the other side. Do you have any pain to speak of?
No, it just feels kind of tight.
Great. So sometimes patients, especially in this one, they'll have like where they're stuck and they can't move in one of these movements, but you're still great for the demonstration. So what we're going to do is we're going to muscle test. So we'll do this side first. So we're going to check a middle deltoid. How many of you guys use muscle testing in your office? Not just orthopedic muscle testing, but like dynamic muscle testing. Okay. So when we're doing dynamic muscle testing, which is a great thing to do for patients because they say seeing is believing, which I think has some truth to it, but feeling is when you feel something change and you feel your body's ability to recruit more motor units over time. That's what we're doing when we change dynamic muscle testing, right? So And what that means is that if we take a muscle, and you're going to push up, I'm going to push down, and it's a nice strong muscle, I'm going in the arc of the muscle, and I'm stabilizing with the other hand, and you're going to push up, I'm going to push down. Good. And then I'm increasing my force over time to see if her brain can connect properly with her body to recruit more motor units in order to still have a strong and facilitated muscle test. I know you guys have been here since 7 a.m. and those are all really big words, but I'm around really good doctors. I can tell, because it's DCCE. So, you guys all follow that, right? I'll say it again. As we increase force over time, what we're checking for with a dynamic muscle test is to see if, as I increase my force over time in the arc of a muscle, that her brain can connect with her body and recruit more motor units in order to have a facilitated or strong muscle test, right? So push up here, I'm going to push down, and we get this locking that happens, right? So we don't want to overpower the patient or move our direction at all, or even think that it's weak or strong, right? Because our intentionality can affect muscle testing, and we want to remain neutral, right? So we'll do the same thing on this side. That way you get worked out on both sides, right? Push up here for me. Good. Nice facilitated muscle test. So we're going to go through and test the sits muscles. This will work for any shoulder issue that you have that is not getting better with standard muscle testing. And have you guys ever been in a class where there's like two presenters? There's like the one up here doing the presentation and instructing, and then there's someone else in the audience who keeps like interjecting and telling the presenter like how to do it the right way. Never happened to you? It happened to me a lot. And then I started telling this story, and then it stopped happening. So if you have a different way of doing these, feel free to tell me at the break, and I will listen to you. But don't be that person who like keeps interrupting the speaker because they need to be heard. Because what that really means is that no one's listening to you at home, right? And that's sad. And we don't want to talk about your sad life in front of everybody else, right? Okay, that's all done. Thanks for participating. Wasn't it great? Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, so we're going to test the first muscle, which is the supraspinatus. So the elbow is completely locked, and it's about the first 15 degrees of adduction, right? And so you're going to hold here, and then you're going to push up. I'm going to push down. Nice, strong muscle test, right? Then we go to teres minor, which is the next one. I'm going to go back to this slide just for simplicity's sake. No one can read that. We'll go to the next one, which is teres minor. So for this one, she's going to be at 90-90. She's going to keep this close to your body. You're going to push out this way, right? Push out. Awesome. And we'll get this video to you guys too somehow so you can, review it. And if you want to try this on your page, you are going to get incredible like shoulder outcomes with this. And guess what? They're going to tell their friends. They're going to send more people. You're going to help more people. Everybody's going to be successful. So push out again for me. Good, good, good. Nice and strong. Then we're going to do the subscapularis, which is the next muscle. And then you do like the 70s handshake like this. And then you're going to go this way, and then I'm going to go this way. Go, go, go. Nice and facilitated locks. We're just looking for a lock, right? And then last one is the infraspinatus. So for this one, you're going to push back, and I'm going to push forward, okay? Go ahead and push back. Same. Totally, it facilitates it. It locks. We call it on, right, or strong, and that's how you test those muscles. So we'll go through them again on this side. You're really good at this. Good job. All right, push up here. Awesome. Really strong. And then bend here, and then you're going to push out this way. Same. Nice and strong. And then here, and then you're going to push this way. Good. And then up here, and then this one you're going to push back. I'm going to push forward, and that's the one. Push, push, push. And it's not like sometimes it hurts and they move their arm out of the way. But for her, there's no stop mechanism. Push, push, push. It just keeps it won't lock, right? So what that tells me is that somewhere along the road, she had a sprain strain injury to this shoulder that didn't get addressed properly. These are the patients that come to you. They've already been to the ortho, 2 chiropractors, 5 PTs, and the acupuncturist, and they still, for whatever reason, have a shoulder issue that is not getting resolved, right? The reason is you can do PT and rehab on this shoulder all you want, but this infraspinatus is not doing its job. It's inhibited. So that means that the antagonist is going to be hypertonic and the synergist is doing all the work, right? So what we would say is there's like rotator cuff dysfunction. There's a muscle imbalance in this symphony of neurologic activity that has to happen in the shoulder in order for it to function properly. And as a result, as she described, it just feels kind of off, right? And especially when she works out, which makes sense. So to fix it, we're going to do origin insertion to the weak muscle, right? Because she has one weak muscle and all the other ones are strong. So what that means is that we go to the origin, which is along the border of the scapula, and then we just feel with our fingertips, and we're feeling for like a little nodule in the muscle. And when you find it, it's going to be really tender, and so you just start working on it. And it's just non-directional. You're trying to basically push the muscle back on the bone. You can use like a rub-dub-dub machine or something like that, like a rapid release, or I wouldn't use a percussor would be great to push that muscle back on the bone. And it's usually a little uncomfortable. So I asked the patient, like, is that tolerable? Good. And I don't say, does that hurt? Because I know it hurts. You know why? Because I'm a superhero. I'm a chiropractor, and I can tell where people hurt before they tell me. What an incredible superpower you have. And again, what's more, you can tell them where they hurt, you can do something to have them feel better, and you actually know that it feels better without them saying anything. All in these fingertips, right? So as we work on this origin, we're going to feel it start to release underneath my fingertips. And then once it does, we'll go to the insertion point and we'll do the same thing. Now, I asked the patient, is it tolerable with those specific words? Because over the years, it's just made sense. I don't want it to be so painful that they don't want to make the 30-minute drive to my office for their next visit, right? And I want to be in tune. If I could give you one thing today, it would be this concept of intunement. Is where you're completely like in vibration with your patient and you're tuned in to what's going on with them, because we have a fiduciary responsibility to take and heighten their needs above our own as doctors. And so if I can tune into what's going on with the patient as I'm adjusting each one of them, which requires me to like stop talking when I adjust, right? And actually know what's going on for them, I'm going to get better outcomes. So then we go here, and then we find that insertion point. And you can see on the chart, like it's the greater tuberosity of the humerus and the capsule of the shoulder joint, but it's really the most tender spot. You can feel the tone, and then and then again, is that tolerable? Yes. Good. And then it eases up. You can feel when it gets better under your fingertips. You know that it's getting better. And then the patient goes, oh, how'd you know that? Superhero. So then we'll recheck it. So go up here, and then you're gonna push back, and I'm gonna push forward. And it's like night and day. Push, push, push. It's facilitated, right? But it's gonna come back. 20 minutes, great. It's gonna come back. You know why? Because we didn't go to the master system. And have a subluxation right here, 4, 5, 6, right? We need to adjust that subluxation. And then what I'll typically do is I'll do that protocol 3 times. If it doesn't get better with me just working on those muscles 3 times, then I'll send them for like a Rolfer. I'll send someone to just really get into that rotator cuff in addition to their chiropractic adjustments, because we have a really high volume practice. And I talked a lot during that, but it really only takes a minute. And you'll take people who have like range of motion like this, and in one movement, 2 minutes, you'll take them up here, and then you adjust their spine. Can I adjust your neck?
Sure.
Great. On your back. One of my favorite questions to ask new patients that I've come up with over the years in consultations is, have you ever had an adjustment that you didn't like or didn't work well for you?
Not that comes to mind.
And that's great to hear. Every once in a while, someone will say, yeah, I went to this one chiropractor and they laid me face down and they did this scissor thing, and I can't relax, right? Or they'll tell me like one specific move, drop table on my L5, because most of my patients, I don't know about you, but 80% of my patients have already seen a chiropractor. And so it behooves me to know why they left their chiropractor. Maybe that chiropractor moved, maybe they moved, right? But I've had patients who said, I told my chiropractor I wasn't enjoying this one adjustment. And
Thank you.
see, attunement, you see, attunement. I told my chiropractor I wasn't liking this one adjustment, and they just kept doing it over and over again, right? So the way I think about chiropractic is the best thing about it is there's 400 different techniques, right? But it's also the worst thing about it, because the general public who's just a consumer, a layperson, they don't really know like what we know about all the different techniques. So they don't really know what they're going to get. But honestly, there's a chiropractor for everybody, and there's a different technique for each patient. So the take home is it's a combination of clinical expertise and patient preference when it comes to your technique style for each patient. So as long as it doesn't go against my clinical integrity, I can change my adjustment, and you'll see that in my practice. I might use an activator on this patient, someone else, I just know that person is a toggle. I have one patient right now, I toggle drop her atlas, and that's her adjustment, right? That I feel like that's me listening to the patient's needs. But if you don't ask the question, you're never going to get the answer, right? So I think it's a great question to ask your patients, and then hear them out, because they might be saying, oh gosh, I hope they don't put me in side posture like that other chiropractor did, but they don't want to say anything because most people are non-confrontational, right? So you give them the space to give you the answer, and then that's retention. It's the holy grail of every business, is to actually have them stay and continue to refer to you, because people choose you because of who you are, but they stay with you because of how you make them feel, right? People choose you because of who you are, and they stay with you because of how you make them feel. That's true in every relationship. It's definitely true in a chiropractic relationship. So we'll adjust the cervical spine, check it for subluxation. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right there, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Awesome. How's that shoulder? Do that thing again. Does it feel any different?
That's good right now.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Round of applause for her. One of my big take homes in the recent years is that I stopped talking when I adjust. And Dr. Tim Young, I met him at CalJam, Dr. Billy's CalJam, and Dr. Tim Young, he's from Oklahoma. You guys know Dr. Tim Young? Incredible skilled adjuster. Like I think he, in my opinion, he might be one of the best adjusters alive today. And if you haven't heard of him, you're going to, right? Besides from me. But he would tell this story about how, like, Landon, have you ever had this, like, you have a song, right? You have your favorite song? And I'm like, yeah. I started thinking about my song. He's like, when that song's on in your playlist and it hits in the car and you turn the volume up and you're just like really pumped to hear that song, and you just can't stop listening to it, and it just like really, really brings you up. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you ever like been in a car with your best friend and they don't know that that's your favorite song, and the song comes on, and then they just start like talking during your favorite song? I'm like, I know exactly what you're talking about, Tim. And he's like, that's what it's like when you adjust and talk at the same time. He's like, you need to focus on the patient, pure love, and adjust them. And that is the secret ingredient to the chiropractic adjustment. You know, all these scope wars, and we need to defend our scope. We absolutely must defend the principles of the chiropractic adjustment. But all these other people who say that they're doing manipulations and, grade 5 mobilizations, they're never going to get it right. They're never going to get it right, because the difference is that the love and the intention as to which we are doing while we deliver that chiropractic adjustment. I don't care about range of motion. I don't care about their pain even. I care about removing subluxation so that the body's innate intelligence can express itself fully in that person who is a living miracle on my table. And that is why chiropractic will heal more things on purpose or on accident than medicine will ever heal on purpose. So, awesome. I don't have a watch. You're going to go like this when I have 2 minutes. Okay. Oh, we're perfect. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go through this kind of fast, but again, we'll get you the information. And I love this part. I've been sharing this information for the better part of a year and a half with chiropractors, mostly in Southern California. And what I named this, the implementation of emerging technology for maximizing patient outcomes. And that just came out. And I was like, wow, that's a really nice sentence. And then I checked it for typos, and there was 6 typos because they're not very good at spelling. So we fixed it. But what I'm going to share with you is how we attract so many patients in our 3 clinics, and how we continue to really become award-winning chiropractic care in San Diego County. We've won the San Diego's Best for 3 times in a row. We moved into that Santee office, and in 2 years, we're Santee Business of the Year. It's a huge honor. There's people who have been in business there for 15 years, and they picked us. So I'm super grateful for that, but it's not really on accident. It's totally on purpose. And the problem is we have, as chiropractors, oftentimes, especially if you own your own practice, which most chiropractors do, is that we have to put these different hats on, right? I got to put on my marketing hat, and I got to put on my CEO hat, and then God, it's HR hat. Just I hate that hat. It's weird, and all these, my advertiser hat, and they all have to fit, but I can never take off the healer hat because it's who I am, and so. As we're going through and we're wearing all these different hats, it can get tough out there. It feels tough, and then you got to have a brother or sister to talk to snap you out of your rut, and stop feeling sorry for yourself maybe, or tell you, hey, you're doing a really good job, and that is really hard, right? And half the time, I don't know about you guys, half the time I'm being way too hard on myself, and half the time I'm being way too easy on myself. And it takes a real true friend to look you in the eyes and say, you're being way too easy on yourself. You need to suck it up, Landon. And then the same friend maybe 6 months later be like, you're being really hard on yourself. You wouldn't talk to me that way, So we need each other is my point. One of my other goals for the next 5 years is every month I'm trying to have lunch or coffee with sounds bad, a random chiropractor near me, right? Just call somebody up. Hey, I'm a chiropractor. My name is Dr. Landon. I looked you up. I just wanted to have coffee and talk philosophy and shop. Most of them say yes. Because here's the thing, raise your hand if you're in the red part, launch and startup mode, under 5 years usually. Awesome, I'm glad you're here. You're going to be way ahead of me because of DCCE. What about growth phase? If you think you're in that section, awesome. Okay. And then maturity, good. And then exit. Right. And what if you don't know? You're not sure. You've never seen a chart like this. Yeah, right. I mean, I didn't until I did. And so we have to think about that, because what I found is most chiropractors, they just want to keep taking care of people because they love what they do forever and ever. And as the owner of Chirocom, we sell more practices for sale by owner than I think any publication across the United States. And so the unfortunate sad part is that a lot of times I talk to doctors and they're like, I got to sell my practice because of health reasons or something in their family, and they never planned for it. So I do want to change that in some way and have a mentorship process that can happen so that the generation before is passing on that torch on purpose to the next generation, and so on and so forth. And so we can do that together. This is a basic sales cycle, which is attraction over here, conversion, retention, and upsell. If you haven't seen this chart before and you're in that growth maturity part of your practice, you should look at this and take a picture of it maybe and start thinking about it. I'd be happy to help you with that as well. I'm sure Dr. Mark would have a ton of insights. But essentially, attraction is all your marketing. Conversion is 2 conversions. One is at the phone when they call, right, and make that first appointment. And then the second is when they come to that appointment and you do your day 1, day 2, or whatever your sales process is, and then they convert to care, right? And then there's another conversion at their progress exam that turns into retention, is how you keep them long term. And then the easiest person to sell something to is someone who's already bought from you, right? So what if you could give them more things to help them be healthier, right? And it's better than anything else that they can get out on Amazon, or you get the point. And the point is like sales, but the truth is we're all in sales, unless you're a nonprofit, which is great. That's a possibility too. But there's no mission if there's no margin. You have to make money to stay in business. And the goal is to just live this epic life and then honestly give it away before you die and make an impact in the world, right? Make the world a better place. Billy hit that like grand slam home run earlier. So what I'm going to share with you, let me do this, is raise your hand. We're going to raise our hands really high. I know you guys might be tired or nervous, but raise your hand if you used Google last week for your practice. You went on a computer and all right, you're not understanding the question. I'm going to try again. Raise your hand if you used a computer and Googled something in practice last week. Good. Okay. Keep your hands up. You didn't use Google? Or like anything, any search engine? No computers?
I did use it last week.
Oh, the week before. In practice. It's always a pain in the ass in the audience, like.
I'm second. I tried harder.
Okay. So keep your hands up if you use ChatGPT or Grok in practice last week. This is a better room than the usual rooms I'm in. I've been doing, okay, you can drop your hands down. I've been doing this for about 18 months. And in the first 6 months, no one rose their hand at all. And it's getting better and better. And so I'm going to show you one of the ways that we use ChatGPT in our practice. And what we did is we had the patient go in. I had a patient come to me and she said, my daughter hit her head having a tantrum. She's 2 years old. What do you do, Dr. Eminette, for these 2-year-old, like the terrible twos? She asked me as a doctor and as a dad. And I said, that's a great question. There's this book from Louise Bates, and she wrote all these different books about, your amazing 2-year-old, your amazing 3-year-old, and it's all the developmental things that kids go through, in these different stages. And as a parent, it's like what I read with our 3rd kid that I wish I would have read with our 1st kid, right? So I asked the computer if it can summarize the entire book for me, and it does it in seconds, right? And then I continue a conversation with the computer, which is an AI. It's basically a long language model. So all it knows how to do is like add more words, but it does it so well that it's as smart as the entire internet is what these things are. And so then I say, okay, great. Can you take this information and the principles of chiropractic and the vitalistic philosophy of chiropractic and explain how chiropractic adjustments can help in addition to this information, and write it into a blog article and put in Dr. Awesome and Awesome Family Chiropractic into the blog. And this is exactly what I want you to say about chiropractic for kids and how it's safe and effective and it's really gentle. And then in seconds it starts going through. I said, give me real life examples for the parent that they can use for their toddler when they're going through this tantrum. And then it does it. Now, none of this would happen without me. So there's these misconceptions that some people have about AI, is that it's fake or it's not real, or these different things. I think the same misconceptions were around any new technology, like email. Remember when you could only mail letters, right? Some of us do. I was 6. And then email came on, right? And then everybody's like, is it safe? Like, it's weird. Are you going to get, hacked? The same thing is true for this, but snail mail is to Google as email is to ChatGPT and Grok and these new AI models. So we are not going to lose our business or our jobs to AI, but we will lose market share to someone who knows how to utilize AI better than we do. Does that follow? So we need to become experts in how chiropractic and AI technology can dovetail with each other for the benefit of patients, which will then help us be more successful in practice and get better patient outcomes. So as I went through, I told it to write this 700, this is what you can put in this thing, this whole paragraph, and then you hit enter and it just does the whole thing. It just completely writes the whole thing. I go through and edit it for integrity, right? And then change it. And then what I get is a beautiful blog that I just sent to the patient. I said, here's a blog. And then it's on my website. My CA posts it to the website. We have these blogs backlogged. Our blog, I'm big on blog in 2025. People are so inundated with video, which is great. And you should do video too. But written word, if it's 2 to 3 minutes, people will read it if it's on a screen. So we made the blog, post it to our website, so I'm not sending them information from someone else. It's all branded under us. And then I told it, I said, make a video using InVideo, this other AI platform, about the terrible twos and how basically from the blog, take the information from the blog and make a video about it, which I'll show you next. This thing have sound? I don't know if we're gonna be able to hear it. So here's the video. Let's see if it plays. The world of a 2-year-old, a whirlwind of laughter, tears, and everything in between. One moment, it's the soft whisper of a lullaby. The next, the playful roar of a tantrum. Welcome to the terrible twos, a time of testing boundaries, and yet filled with endless love. Navigating these waters takes patience, a thumbs up here, a comforting hug there. It's time to switch off the screens and tune into real connection. Building blocks, not just virtual worlds. And at the end of the day, it's the quiet moments of peace that resonate the most. A testament to the unbreakable bond of love. The journey of a 2-year-old. It's a wild ride, but oh, what a beautiful one. Question to blog to video, all in like minutes. That would have took days to produce all of that, right? And we can all do that. I can show you and your CA how to do all of those things. So the last thing I want to tell you is that my journey and my story didn't start in that dark room, and thank God it didn't end there because of a chiropractor. You know, my journey started way before that. My parents, they had my older sister, and then my younger sister was born, and then my mom lost 2 babies. She had 2 babies in diapers, and she lost 2 babies. And through the grief, and I can't imagine what it was like, but they continued to grow their family. And when my mom fell into a deep depression after my sister Mary passed away in the womb at 24 weeks, she said she had a dream. And she said someone came to her in the dream, and it was a man. He said, everything is going to be okay. And she said, 9 months later, Landon, you were born. And that was a story that my mom used to tell me on my birthday more often than not. She said, Landon, you're a healer. You healed me before you were even born. And so when I was a kid and she asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I told her I wanted to be a canine cop because, we were watching Rin Tin Tin or Rescue 911 or whatever, a valiant profession. But she kept telling me, you're a healer, Landon. And there's someone in the room that knows that they're a healer, and they've known it for their entire life. And it is It is the beat of that drum is the rhythm of their life, and it doesn't ever leave them, right? And maybe there's somebody else in the room who knew that they were a healer, but life came in and just kicked them in the teeth like one too many times, right? And they started to forget the healing that they bring into every room, right? And then there's someone in the room who maybe hasn't been told that they're a healer, right? You're a healer. Right? And you didn't choose chiropractic. Chiropractic chose you. We are healers. We put our hands on people and they feel better and they live better, all with the principles of chiropractic, and it is the best healing profession in the world. It's been my honor and joy to speak with you today. Go out there and heal as many people as you can, okay?
We'll take a quick 5-minute break and then we'll go on to our last speaker. I'm excited to introduce him.
I'm gonna jet after this. Thanks.
Johnny, you gotta come join Billy and I for dinner. I'll make you guys dinner.
Okay.
At his
I'd
house.
love that, yeah. Well, like lamb chops, yes, please.
Easy.
Anything?
I have this for you. And I know you like to sit sometimes.
That's too high.
Too high? You want
Yeah,
another
I
one?
can't sit on those high ones. I lose all feeling in my legs.
Oh, damn. Okay, well, we gotta get you over to Dr. Billy sooner than
I know,
later.
really. Other than that, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that case, be a different throne. Yeah. This we're right now. I think that one too is Billy's. I'll grab it.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, brother.
All right, I'll see you later.
Okay, love you, man.
Oh, got you again. It's okay. Death trap. There we go.
Mike, I'll be back in a few minutes to introduce you.
Landon Eminent, yeah.
I'm Mike Corey.
Hi.
I remember from last time.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see
Yeah.
you too.
Yeah.